Okay, part four. Global warming is a hoax. We're talking about the lies found in the movie An Inconvenient Truth to hopefully, finally, totally put this baby to bed. Lie number three. Thermohaline circulation is stopping. Um, a strengthening, not a weakening, in the ocean conveyor, which is the thermohaline circulation, has been observed since 1980. Uh, the lie is that Europe would be so apparently Europe will be spared from the ice age that Al Gore predicted in his movie. Um, Lie number four: CO2 is driving the temperature up. Gore said that the last four interglacial warming periods, meaning periods between ice ages or drops in temperature during our major ice age, were caused by increases in CO2. The opposite is actually true. Increases in temperature preceded the changes in CO2 concentration, not caused by, but were before the concentration of CO2 went up, which the very scientific papers that Gore's film relied on made clear. He didn't even read the damn paper all the way that he based his whole freaking movie on. Or he was selecting, cherry picking the parts that helped his cause and ignored the parts that don't. Wow, how liberal of him. How left wing of him. Gore said the difference between the minimum and maximum change in the CO2 is the difference between a nice day and a mile of ice over your head. Exaggeration? Times 10. Yeah. Lie number five. The snows of Kilimanjaro are melting. Melting of the Furtwängler Glacier began 150 years ago, which would put it, slightly before we supposedly had man had been doing any significant changes to the environment. Just a little. Since the area of the glacier never rises above freezing, the only possible cause is long-term climate shifts exacerbated by imprudent regional deforestation. Deforestation. Yeah, that's the word. Not global warming. In other words, global warming cannot cause the problem since it never rises above freezing there. The only thing left is deforestation. Now, that's still man-caused, but it's not global warming. You don't get to have it both ways. Lie number six. Lake Chad is drying up. The over-extraction of water and changing agricultural patterns did that. Not global warming. It was also dry. Lake Chad was also dry in 8500 BC, 5500 BC, 1000 BC, and 100 BC. Those were all before the Industrial Revolution. Not man-made caused. Isn't it possible? It's a natural phenomenon. A recurring natural phenomenon. Something liberals who love global warming alarmism cannot stand is that phrase. Reoccurring natural phenomena. Lie number seven. Hurricane Katrina was man-made, and other hurricanes and other things. Studies show that there have been no significant increases in the number of hurricanes or their wind speed for the last 70 to 100 years. Folks, we've been studying the weather for over 100 years now. There are studies, graphs, tests, documentation. We're not guessing anymore. Okay? We know this stuff. So you can't just say something and hope it sticks, because someone can go back into the record and check it. Oops. Now you're all caught, busted. Another debunk to that lie is that Katrina was only a category 3 when it hit the levees. So it had nothing to do with wind speed in the first place. Let's talk about those levees. The U.S. government granted a buttload of money to be given to the state of Louisiana and the city of New Orleans to build the levees to a height designated by the Corps of Engineers, U.S. Corps of Engineers. Democrats like Senator Mary Landrieu and Mayor of New Orleans, Ray Nagin, decided that they knew what to do with that money better than to use it for what it was appropriated for, building the levees. Who knows what they spent it on? Entitlement programs, more than likely, something wasteful and unnecessary. And along comes a hurricane that goes right through and over the levees, and they sit there and they wonder why. And then they turn around and blamed everything but themselves on the effects of Katrina. FEMA, George Bush, bigotry, they caused it. Lie number 8. Polar bears are dying. Another wonderfully visual, heart-wrenching, on-your-sleeve emotional plea from the left to try to convince you that us humans are killing animals unnecessarily. Boo-hoo. My heart bleeds. And if it were true, it would. But it ain't true. They're killed by having to swim long distances between icebergs or ice sheets or whatever. Guess what? Polar bears can swim up to 30 miles at a stretch. They're not dying because they have to swim long distances. They can swim long distances. The amount of sea ice in the Beaufort Sea, which is, where these dead bears apparently have all supposed to have been happening, has increased over the last 30 years. Not decreased, increased. And the number of bears has also increased. According to the Worldwide Fund of Nature, a liberal organization, the WWF. As for the sea ice being the lowest ever measured for minimum extent back in 2007, it was failed to be mentioned that way back in 1945, the Northwest Passage, which is where this area is, was open to shipping. And Amundsen, an explorer, way back in 1903, went through the same passage. It's not always open. But what does it show? It shows that there is a pattern, again, of warming that opens up the passage and melts some of the ice on occasion, and then it freezes again. Reoccurring natural phenomena. Lie number 9. The coral reefs are bleaching. El Nino conditions cause bleaching, not global warming. This has happened in 1998 and 2 other severe El Ninos over the last 250 years. And on, and on, and on. The lies keep going. Japanese typhoons are at a new record. Except they've been falling over the last 50 years. Insurance losses from storms increasing. Except by population, they were lower in 2005 than 1925. Mumbai is flooding. Except studies show no increase in heavy rainfall in 48 years. So what's causing it to flood? And who says it's flooding? Severe tornadoes, more frequent in the United States. The reason there's more tornadoes seen is because we have better detection and better ways of finding the little tornadoes in addition to just the big ones. However, severe storms, the big ones, have been decreasing in the U.S. for over 50 years. Provable fact. Another lie. The sun heats the Arctic Ocean. No, the sun does not heat the Arctic Ocean, as we talked about before. The atmosphere holding in radiative energy warms the ocean, not the sun. The diagram that Al Gore used in his movie An Inconvenient Truth confuses the troposphere with the ionosphere. Some scientist he turned out to be. His own diagram has it backwards. Arctic warming faster than the rest of the planet. The Arctic has been cooling for the last 60 years. 1 degree Celsius cooler than in 1940s. Provable fact. I'm not making this stuff up, folks. The Greenland ice sheet is unstable. Ice grows 2 inches per year. It's survived each of the 3 previous interglacial periods, which were 5 degrees warmer than it is today, and had higher concentrations of carbon dioxide. 100,000 ppmv, or parts per million in volume, versus 400 parts per million in volume today. That's a lot more back then than today. It also melted 850,000 years ago. Completely melted. And it's come back. Reoccurring atmospheric phenomena. Or reoccurring weather phenomena. Whatever you want to call it. Another lie. Worldwide glaciers are disappearing. Except they've been started to melt way back in the 1820s, and no acceleration of melting has been detected in recent decades. And that precedes the Industrial Revolution. So if we didn't start it, we can't go back in time and say we did when it started before we could even possibly have started it in the first place. The Antarctic ice sheet is unstable. West Antarctic ice sheet is unstable. Remember we were talking, we get back to this deal about the sea levels rising. In most of Antarctica, the ice sheet is growing thicker, actually. And sea ice spread to a 30-year record in 2007. So, that's a lie. What was really funny, and I always get a kick out of this, is the do-gooders on their little boats to Antarctica to try to research global warming and the melting of the ice sheets get trapped in an ice sheet themselves and have to have another ship come rescue them, which also gets trapped in an ice sheet, and another third boat had to come and rescue the 2 other ships. I guess their research should have then been that it wasn't happening as they thought it was, but we haven't heard anything from them since then on that score. The Antarctica Peninsula ice shelves are breaking up. They've melted before, which studies of the seabed has shown. The sediment in the seabed shows that there have been melts before. So this is a, what do you call it? Reoccurring phenomena. Mosquitoes are climbing to higher altitudes. Oh, sorry. Recent outbreaks are at lower levels than early 20th century. Only they only need 15 degrees of Celsius to breed mosquitoes. The largest outbreak in modern times was in Siberia in the 1920s and 30s, where 13 million were affected and 600,000 people died. Pretty sure Siberia is cold, not warm. So global warming has nothing to do with mosquitoes doing their thing. That's on record, folks. More crap from An Inconvenient Truth. Tropical diseases spread through global warming. That's how they spread. Hantavirus, all this kind of stuff. Ebola, blah, 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 blah. They named no less than 15 diseases, 4 of which were insect-borne, and 0 were actually tropical. So while they talk about tropical diseases being increased by or spread through global warming, they go on to list no tropical disease. And lastly, but surely not leastly, the last lie, CO2 is pollution. Well, it's funny because it's food for plants and trees. And currently, plants and trees are flourishing at 30 times the normal rate. Now, that has nothing to do with deforestation, rainforests being cut down. That's man doing it. It's not global warming. They're not doing it because of global warming. What logic is there in the off-gassing of human breath and whatnot, which would help the trees, which then in turn give us more oxygen, which helps us? And now we're supposed to believe that CO2, the very things we breathe out, is poison, which means, of course, that humans are poison. And isn't that the whole point of the liberal argument? We're unnatural to Earth, even though we were proven, they took all that time to prove we're natural to Earth, and we are a threat to Earth. Well, all of what I just talked about is proof positive that the left is out of their freaking minds. It proves that there's an agenda behind this, not science. It proves that even when there's science there, they cherry pick the parts they want to look at and ignore the parts that disprove their point. What else is new? It also proves that they rely on the ignorance of people to believe this stuff because it's way over their heads and they don't want to do what I just did very easily on a few hours of research on a computer to disprove them. It also proves that because they're afraid of the argument, because they know they will lose the argument, have been losing the argument, will continue to lose the argument, they want to stop the argument. They cease all debate, call everybody a denier, as if it's some kind of bad word. I'm happy to be a global warming and alarmist denier. Do I disagree that man can cause some changes in the environment? No. We're perfectly capable of increasing in some small, insignificant way. But the Earth has ways of fighting back, and it does. It has ways of compensating. There are mechanisms and processes with which the Earth undertakes on its own naturally to compensate for the variances in radiative energy and greenhouse gas effects. It emits more stuff into outer space. You know, years ago they had this big scare back in the early 80s about the ozone layer over Antarctica, and said that all the Freon and all the aerosol sprays that were in refrigerators and hairsprays and whatnot were causing problems. So they had a big ban on it. No more Freon, no more aerosols. It didn't do a damn thing. But years later, the ozone hole cleared up. What did it do? What did they do? They ignored the fact that the ozone layer grows and shrinks over time and has been proven to do so. And satellites proved it. They couldn't explain why the ozone hole suddenly closed up. It had nothing to do with banning aerosols and freon. It had to do with a natural, reoccurring phenomena. Here's another reoccurring phenomena. Liberals will continue to be morons, and their head moron in this global climate change hoax is the useful idiot known as Al Gore. I hope this was informative enough for some of you to perhaps think twice before believing anything a liberal will tell you. And if nothing else, I'm hoping that this video served to show that this argument is far from over. We have yet to see any proof of a catastrophic problem created by man, and that just maybe you understand that there's motivation behind it, which proves that global warming, as it's being stated by the left, is nothing more than a ginormous hoax. Con the sheeple. Hope you're not a sheeple. Till next time, we'll see you. Have a good one.